So, speaking about needs, love, I would say, is one of the fundamental needs that even as babies growing up, that is a need. So I just want to hear from you, put it in the chat. What does love mean? When you hear the word love, what does it mean? What comes to mind? And know that love isn't just romantic love. That could be love for many different people. Love for your friends, your teachers, your pets, mentors. So, what does love mean?
I know for me too, like when talking about what love means, I also associate it with like admiring someone. So it might seem awkward at times to say like you love your boss, but like admiring someone can also be similar to loving someone. You look up to them, you value them, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to change the wording in any way to make it feel less uncomfortable, that could be another word.
And you can also think about when do you feel loved, and what are the things that come with that? So how do you feel? Do you feel valued? Do you feel cared for? You can think about that aspect of it to help spark some ideas of what that means.
Or does love look different with different types of relationships? So like the way you love your mom may not be the same way that you love your best friend. And how do they look different?
Relationships for me definitely look different for different people in some ways, but in a lot of ways, I've been told this, and I guess I'm just like a ta-da kind of personality. So I'm pretty much the same person with most people that I interact with, unless I'm guarded with you. So whatever it is, the fun loving, the food, the affectionate, the cuddly. And that's another one, like you're talking about mother, made me think, I'm like, yeah, I'm a very physical, affectionate kind of person. And that's something that happens across the board with all my relationships in different forms. And I definitely got that from my mother. So.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that you're touching on is sometimes that can be a learned behavior too, of like, how do you show love to someone? You can learn that. So that's something to reflect on, something we'll talk about a little bit later, but you learned that from your mom. So
definitely not my dad. No.
Just a heads up too, it's 5:15.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm the complete, and everyone in the office jokes of this, I'm the complete opposite of Terrence. Total opposite. Not affectionate unless you're my cat. But everyone will say too, I'm the one who's like kind of more thoughtful. So I will, if I know we have a really rough week, I'm the one who shows up with like donuts and coffee. Because I know we need it. So I like think of those little things for Christmas. I like to think of little things that I know people would like, or is more geared towards their personality versus, oh, everyone's getting a gift card. I kind of go that extra mile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's how you show love. I think someone wrote something in the chat, so let's just check on that.
Okay, so it says, I think love is everything that we do. It's being kind, sharing a happy thought, allowing others to feel safe. It's like an act of showing appreciation for something or someone by vocalizing it through words or affirmation, physical touch, generous gesture, or by just listening.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you just, that comment just touched on a lot of what we're going to say next, is that people express love in different ways, and there's different love languages. So Terrence was talking about the cuddling, so that would be under the category of physical touch, or comforting touch. Devika, you talked about getting gifts and coming in with donuts, or really thinking about, okay, this person likes this, so I'm going to do that for them. And that's I would say that's how you express your love, which would be receiving gifts. The other ones that was mentioned in the chat first was words of affirmation. That telling people that you care about them, or that they did really well in this category, or you really appreciated this, is a part of it. And another one, which I would say is my love language, is quality time. So spending time intentionally, so not like just spending time together and watching a movie where we're together but we're not talking, but like really spending time and sharing together. And then another one, I think the last one, is acts of service. So doing the dishes, even though you hate doing dishes, that's me. I love my mom, and she hates having a full sink, and I'm living with her right now. So I'll do the dishes, even though I hate doing them, but because I love her. And I know that that's something she appreciates. So that would be an example of an act of service, in me speaking in a love language to somebody else. So I'll leave it to you, Katrina. Now that love language, we're going to just expand on that a little bit more.
Okay, so I know for love languages and the topic of communication, it's love languages is important to recognize within yourself, because they just like help you understand how you feel loved and how you feel appreciated. So before I keep talking, we have another comment in the chat that says, I think love is letting people know that you would always be there for them. So yeah, that's a great point in terms of being there, whether that could touch upon all of the love languages. So you could be there for them if they need words of affirmation, or if they need something done because they're exhausted, or if they need a coffee, which would be a gift. Yeah, understanding your love language kind of helps with your relationship and the communication, because it almost can eliminate like the guessing and the unsure about what to do for someone. So it helps you understand what resonates with the person better, and how you can meet their needs or help them meet their needs. So,
and also the opposite too.
Yeah.
Knowing what your love language is and communicating that with somebody, then they can understand, okay, this is how I can speak Amanda's love language and show her that I care for her, right? Like I did for my mom. I know it's not something that I like, but I did that for her because I knew that that was important to her, and that's a part of her love language. So but being able to communicate to people what yours is, so that they can speak to that effectively and fill up your your love cup, if that makes sense. So it meets that need, and you're teaching them by communicating and telling them what your need is and how to do that, how to fill it.
Yeah, and no word of a lie. I mean, like, I've been married, how many years is it? Oh wow, hold on. 7 years, almost 7 years now. Wow. Okay, almost 7 years. And we still have points where like we have to communicate. I mean, verbally communicate those needs after knowing each other for so long. You know, like when I have, for example, when I was dealing with anxiety, touch is a big thing for me, right? So I would reach out and touch physically, like to even like put my hand on her so I know that she's close and I feel more comfortable knowing that she's there. And it would be like, why are you touching me? And I had to explain, I'm like, listen, it just calms my anxiety to know that you're physically there. I need to touch you to know that you're there. So now, like, it could be 3 o'clock in the morning. If I'm having some issue sleep or whatever, she knows that I'm touching her. It's because it helps to comfort me when I'm having a hard time sleeping. But she wouldn't have known that if I didn't communicate that. She didn't know my life story. She didn't know the connection in my head of where that comes from and all that. So yeah, being aware of self and your own love language. And then once you're aware of that, communicating it with the person that you're relating to, it's really important, because then they can understand you better and help meet those needs if possible.
Yeah. We're going to do, 2 things I wanted just to comment on, Terrence, and just connecting that touch. because I remember you talking about the physical, like the tape to help with being okay. So that can do with touch, right? And even the chewing gum, like just it's not the same as touch, but it's a form of it. So just connecting those things now. So we're coming close to the end of time, but we're going to do just a quick exploration that might help you find out what is your love language. So we're going to do a Menti for that, and you can pick a person blanket. So what does could be your spouse, it could be your like a guardian, it could be your friend, anything. You put the type of relationship in there that you want to explore for this, and answer the question. So what does your person do or fail to do that hurts you deeply?
The first one says they don't recognize when I need help or support. Another one says one word or generic answers. When I feel like I'm not being heard, not saying goodbye or hugging me. And we have another one that says does not give some physical affection, even if it's a hug or caress of the hand. Also when they don't validate or listen, when they are defensive or distracted. That's also another word that comes to mind when I'm speaking to someone and maybe they're not listening properly. I feel like they're distracted. Something else.
And in the chat, it says it hurts when I'm not listened to or when I want to vent and I'm asked a question that I don't have the answer to because I'm still processing being misunderstood.
Even as you reflect on what you wrote, the opposite of what hurts you is probably your love language. So if it's some of the things that I'm seeing that are connected in some ways is like generic words or not feeling heard, that could connect to quality time. So just like actually spending time and listening and like really listening and connecting that way through allowing yourself to express what's going on, and then also communicating back and showing that they're listening, and not just being generic or like dismissive or like one word answers. That could be like quality time that you need that could be your love language. And I'm seeing physical affection, right? Hugging. So it could be just like a hug before you leave, or like a greeting as if you sit down on the couch together and you just rub their back just for a moment. Like that counts as physical touch. So if that could be something as well as someone's love language, I would say that would be it. So as you look at these things and you think about it more, note that the opposite of that, or what you're not receiving, is probably a good chance of your love language. And we're going to do one more exploration.
Before we do that, there was one more response. Understanding that sometimes you just want to be alone without being angry and not being listened to and being misunderstood.
So when I'm reading that, it feels, and you can correct me if I'm wrong if you want to, but like a need for some space. It needs just to be to process, and the want to be heard. That's also a need, like just to be fully heard without any judgment, but like this is just how I'm feeling right now. Whether you think it's right or wrong, or I think it's right or wrong, or whatever, I just want to be able to express it and to be heard.
Yeah, I like that judgment bit and like people not understanding where the person's coming from. So it's like a frustration with that. Like, give me some space. Yeah.
Definitely think it kind of ties into acts in terms of acts of service can be the act of like omitting something too. So instead of constantly doing something for someone, also understanding that doing not doing something and giving them that space can also be a way of servicing their needs. So I think that's also kind of ties into that last point that we just
Yeah.
So we're gonna do another question that could help reveal what your love language is. And so the question is, in what way do you regularly express your love to the person? So just like Davika said at work, her way of expressing it is buying those donuts, or writing giving a card, for example, and writing a nice note, like a giving of something. So when you think about, pick a person in mind, it could be the same person or a different person, but how do you show them that you love them? How do you express your love?
So we have one that says words of affirmation. I often compliment others or verbally recognize things they do. Holding space and listening to them, noticing when they've done something to change their space or image, offering support when I notice they may be in their heads, or giving space if that is what they prefer, just trying to meet their needs. Attention, gift, and trying my best to make sure their wishes are being met. And spending time with them, listening to their needs, being supportive when they need me to. The last one says, I tell them I say I love you or thanks. I also give lots of hugs. Everyone knows they can't leave the house without giving them a kiss on the cheek. Sorry,
And in the chat it says, by being supportive, giving them space if they need it, being available as I can, or doing something that will uplift them.
So even as you look here, can you identify a love language just by reading, or a guess? There's no right or wrong, but let's just see if we can pull out some from what we see.
There's a lot of listening happening.
Just tied down with like quality time.
Yeah, I would say that it's quality time for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And words of affirmation. So that's a big one, like verbal. And
The gifts.
I would say the bottom one is, or like they can't leave the house without giving them like a hug or a kiss before they leave. That's definitely physical touch.
Right.
Yeah.
In the chat it says listening for sure.
Mm-hmm. So I think Katrina, you spoke pretty closely. I think that's what it is, of the quality time seems to be coming up. Yeah. Oh, and there's some gifts.
The affection bit. I was thinking about, let's switch back over. I was just thinking about, my mom had this thing when we would work out, like try to resolve our conflicts. It was called making peace. And at the end of making peace, it had to end with a hug or at least a handshake. So definitely a hug most of the time with my mom. But I remember when doing that same process with my wife, it was ending, we finished, we resolved, but I felt like it wasn't resolved because there was no physical like resolution, or like no physical touch at the end of it. So I'm like, why is it I don't feel like it's ended yet? Like I feel like there's still something missing. And I was like, oh, because there's got to be some kind of embrace, some touch. Yeah.
Yeah. So for you, to feel like a conflict has come to an end, has been resolved, there has to be physical touch involved.
Sure.
So another question for you to think about, we're not going to do a Menti for it, but what's something that you often request of someone? So that might come across as like, I really wish they would just pick up their clothes, or like put this thing away. And that could be like, it might come across as nagging, or you're upset about it, or even from the other end, something that they're asking you to do a lot. as a request. That's something, so to think about what's something that you've often requested of somebody, and that might, or what somebody's requesting of you. If you think about a family member, that's probably going to be telling you what their love language might be, and also the opposite way around, what yours might be. And just keep in mind that the thing that you most often request is likely the thing that would make you feel most loved.
Yep. Or someone just got dropped, popping them back in. With that being said, should I pop up the mentee checkout?
Yes.
Cool. Multitasking, look at me.
And we'll continue this conversation as it's going to lead into the next workshop. Healthy relationships. Okay, so thinking about everything that we discussed today, the activities from the video and journaling and the love language exploration, think about what's something that you do well. What's a pro in the way of how you communicate? What do you do well in the way that you communicate with other people? And communication is verbally, and also we talked about that body language too. And then something that you think you can improve on based on the information that we explored today. Any discoveries of like, maybe I should try this, or I could do this a little bit better in the way I communicate. Yeah, that I'm just reading what one person wrote. So listening and showing physical affection. I could work on, so that's something that they do well, and could work on listening a little bit more and ask if they want advice before I offer it. So that's something that I have worked on, because it's human nature to like want to solve problems and because some people just they don't want you to solve the problems. They probably already have the answers within them. They just need to release it and need a space for it and want someone to hold space for them. So that's a really, I think, great aspiration to work on. It's something that I continuously work on as well. So I just resonate with that.
Other boxes say, I do well with communicating what I need. However, I can improve when it comes to actively listening to others' needs and being present with others when others speak. Another one says, I listen well. I could communicate my needs better. And in the chat, it says, I can improve on communicating my feelings with others. And also asking if my help is needed before offering it.
Okay, for that last one, I heard a lot of what you can do. How about what you do well? I think I might have interrupted Katrina.
That's okay. I was just gonna comment on that about asking if my help is needed before offering. It's also a good way of kind of asking and learning about their love language and how, not just like, oh, can I do this for you? It's like, maybe like, do they need words of encouragement, which are words of affirmation? Do they need a hug? Like, understanding that there's multiple levels to offering help and meeting needs.
I had that same thought and of saying, how can I help? Would you like? Okay, so listening. So what they do really well is I listen really well and kind of maneuver a situation to be more clear or uplifting. Gift of words. Knows how to use his words. So seeing the positive aspects of the situation and clearing the path.
I like that. I mean, we're all really good at being pretty negative and hard on ourselves, so nice to uplift sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. So, the activity or the challenge to explore this week is to those things that you just said that you wanted to try to do more for your communication, or how you think you can improve your communication. I encourage you to try and do that this week. And there's no like bad or good. Let's just like, let me just explore what it's like to do this week and see what happens. And I also encourage you, some of this is already in your what you want to do this week for improving your communication. But in terms of the love languages, I encourage you just to bring your awareness to whoever you're sharing space with in your home, and seeing if you can identify any of their love languages by what they ask, what they do for you, just like we did that exploration in those questions earlier. So to see how you can even communicate those needs to them, or see how you just explore like, what is my love language, even in more depth. And we have an online quiz that I believe is being shared right now. So you can go to www.5lovelanguages.com quizzes. We'll send you the link.
It's actually in the chat right now.
Okay, awesome. And so that will give you a little bit more, because we usually have two love language, one that's more dominant and one that's a little bit less. And that was even shown in some of the comments. There was like two types. So if you want to explore a little bit more about love languages, check out that site.
So as for next week, we're going to be focusing on healthy relationships. Henceforth, communication first. Get to know us and how we communicate before you relate to other people, because then you're able to communicate your needs and be aware of your needs and your responses as you're relating with somebody. So next week, healthy relationships. Same time we'll send a Zoom invite if you DM us or message us, and you can join in then. So we'll see you next week.
Bye for now.
Bye.